world is certainly becoming much more unequal. When I was young, four of us, my brother, my father, my mother, and I, would travel on one scooter in India. Now, obviously, that wasn't pleasant. My father had 3 accidents, but you didn't see the Porsches, the Ferraris, the limousines that you see in India today. In fact, we cycled to university. In those days, if you got a motorcycle or a scooter, you were a big deal. Now, almost everyone is using motorcycles. But what has happened in India, what has transpired in India, is that inequality has shot up dramatically. You have a huge mansion by a billionaire overlooking the Dharavi slum. And just before you think this is just an Indian phenomenon, go to Brazil, go to Mexico, go to Kenya, go to Nigeria, hell, go to Europe. Actually, the US, of course, the US, which I call a developing country without malaria in some ways. The US is highly unequal, and even Norway and Sweden have become more unequal. The Scandinavian paradise is not what it once was. So how does this inequality manifest itself? Well, number one, in income. Income inequality, which is measured by the Gini coefficient, has shot up. Number two, educational inequality, health inequality, and inequality of access to all kinds of social services. That has shot up. If you are a poor child born on the wrong side of the tracks, you're never going to be able to compete with people who go to Eton, because they are more likely to be the Boris Johnsons of the world. Similarly, if you are born the son of a multimillionaire, if not a billionaire, you're likely to emerge as Donald Trump. Elections, after all, are terribly expensive. So basic access to services means that social mobility is falling. And third, and this is not really talked about as much, but it is perhaps actually, in my view, the most important, it is wealth inequality. Since the end of the Great Recession, which is after the 2007-2008 financial crisis, what has happened is that central banks have opened the spigot. They have let loose a wall of money. Now you'd say, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is simple. Those with assets, meaning those who own shares of Facebook, those who own nice apartments, and those who own land or anything, are laughing all the way to the bank without doing anything. Whilst those who do not have assets find it harder and harder to get on the property ladder and are, in relative terms, far more unequal. In fact, some statistics say that the top 3 people in the US perhaps have as much wealth as 35% of the Americans, and some say as much as 50% of the Americans. Now, when that happens, when you get that great gulf, and mind you, there's one more thing. Those with wealth are taxed at 15% because wealth is taxed lower than income. So if you pay capital gains, you're taxed lower. If you pay income, of course, you're taxed more. So those with greater wealth now have asymmetric power. They can buy your democracy. And countries like the US and India are democracies for sale, as are countries like Kenya and Nigeria. So this is a perilous time. Inequality is a threat to the social fabric. Inequality is a major factor in weakening democracy, and inequality is leading to lower social mobility. So if we care about justice, we care about freedom, we care about some sort of sane society, we have to curb inequality and expand the arc of opportunity.